Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of That Crew podcast. I'm joined with my friend De Burke, and I'm going to talk about three radiation incidents. So, we're going to start with one that happened in Japan. I believe the guy's name was it Uchi? I'm going to butcher these names. There was a guy called Uchi Shinohara and
Mm.
Yakowa. That probably was horrible.
Yeah,
But
it's his. Yeah, yeah, I can't pronounce it. Hisashi Uchi
yeah,
and two of his
Hisashi Uchi,
colleagues.
yeah.
Mm.
So this is pretty much, from what I can tell, the highest amount of radiation a person's been exposed to before, and that's been actually like monitored. And we'll get behind like the reason it's monitored and all that soon. So basically, I believe they were mixing a fuel container? I think it was with uranium,
I think
and
so. Yes,
yeah, yeah, and
employees at a fuel conversion company.
yeah, and I think there were them three were in the room, and I believe they were meant to. The mixture was meant to have around 2.4 kilograms of uranium in it, but it had around, when they were doing it, 16 kilograms of uranium in the mixture, which
Jesus.
obviously is far too much. I don't think that, from what I can tell, these people weren't actually like very well trained or hadn't really done it before, at least for many years. So clearly they didn't have too much of an idea what they're doing because there's way too much uranium in there.
I
But
think that was like a controversy as well because they were exposed to that much radiation. And then like nobody in the company was actually trained properly to deal with that.
yeah, actually deal with the actual like mixture there to do.
Mm.
And so basically, apparently, there was just like a sudden blue like mist in the air, like the air around them basically turned blue because of the radiation. It must have gone critical or something. Something must have happened. But
Yeah,
basically, after that, I think they were instantly affected, from what I can tell. At least, I think all of them. There was one guy sitting 4 meters away at a desk, and I'm not too sure if he was affected instantly by the
mm.
radiation, but I know at least the first two guys definitely were. Like the two people actually doing the mixture. I think one of them, I think, passed out instantly. I think that was Isachi Uchi. I think that was
Mm.
him. And there was one more guy who tried to take a few steps away and pretty much just collapsed on the ground. So I'm not. I think obviously people came in and got them out, and they ended up in hospital. I'm certain of that. And was it? Yeah, I think I just looked. Yeah, it was 3 years that it hadn't been attempted in that process. I think it was enrichment of uranium or something.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, and
So this is a job that hadn't been done in 3 years. This is a specific job that had to be done every few years.
yeah, I believe in that specific factory, it hadn't been done in 3 years, and they hadn't had the level of training that they needed for that.
Oh,
So
so and these
that's
three guys were these three guys were asked to do
yes,
whatever it
from
was, and then ended
yeah,
up.
from what I've read, yeah, that's pretty
Oh,
much.
okay.
And I mean, that's obviously not the sort of job you want to be doing anyway, is it? But
Yeah, it's
they're
that's
not untrained.
yeah. Jeez, that doesn't
So
sound
they
fun.
apparently that Uchi, Hisachi Uchi, I'm gonna butcher the name constantly. He uh, he was blasted with, I think it's 17 sieverts of radiation, which is a huge amount of radiation, which is like
Mm.
the point of no return. I think 10,000 is like a death sentence, from what I can tell. So he had
Oh,
way more than that. With the radiation sickness thing, I think it's just 700. I think it's millisieverts will will cause vomiting and hair loss within 2 to 3 weeks, and
jeez,
I
he got
think
17.
17,000 millisieverts. Yeah, and I think it's 1,000 causes radiation sickness. I think that's when you start to get symptoms of that. But I don't know if it's. I don't think that would like cause too many problems. I think it probably cause cancer in later life and that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
But Uchi received 17 times that.
17 times that, yeah, he was. It's pretty much a death sentence. 10,000 is
Yeah.
death sentence. Even around that is like your chance of survival are incredibly low. I
And it
know
says
that,
here his friend, he received the most out of the three.
yeah, he received the most. I think the other guys, I think one of them, I know two of the guys died. Obviously, the two people that were mixing, I think they're the ones who died for, because it was like an
Mm.
immense amount of radiation is exposed to in like a really short amount of time. But one guy, I think he had multiple organ failure, I believe it was,
Oh
and
yeah.
pretty much he was allowed. I think he eventually recovered. However, the other two, the Hitachi Uchi, he died
Mm.
like, I think obviously in 80 days, which we're going to get to, and the other guy a little bit longer than that, but it was pretty
Okay.
much a death sentence for those two.
Yeah, it says here that his friends received, one of them received 10. I'm guessing that's the guy who died soon after, and then the other one received 3. I'm guessing that's the guy
Yeah,
who got better. But still,
yeah,
geez, that's a lot.
that's an insane amount of radiation.
Yeah.
If it's 3,000, is I think the survival rate is about 50% for 3,000 millisieverts. So I
For
think that's about,
3,000.
yeah, it's 50% for
Whoa,
3,000.
that's
When you think
mad.
the standard dental X-ray is 0.01 millisieverts, the CT scan is 10 millisieverts. So
Wow.
these people receive 17,000. Like that's
17,000. Yeah, it's kind of hard to comprehend. So yeah,
yeah,
probably is true. The guy who's exposed to the most radiation ever. Isn't it
yeah,
comparable to like the epicenter at Hiroshima or something like that? It's like,
yeah,
yeah,
yes.
the epicenter of
It's
Hiroshima. It's like comparable to that.
and that's in just literally on it as it happened. Like,
Oh
think
man.
how much radiation it must mean for the air around them to turn blue. That's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
in
man.
a person in an entire lifetime, I think like the average person receives around 350 millisieverts
Just
like
in an average lifetime,
in an
350.
average
Yeah,
lifetime. So
and he
that's
got 17,001.
yeah, and so obviously the results of that were like devastating for him. He there's a photo online which I probably wouldn't recommend you check out. It's now I've said that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think they will.
I
Um,
also wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, I think we just
yeah,
made it very popular just there.
it's pretty much like I don't know how to even describe it. He's
Mm.
just it just looks melted. It's
Oh
horrible.
yeah, yeah. I've seen it. So he gets exposed to 17,000. What's it called, sieverts?
Millisieverts. Well, I think that's about
Sieverts.
17. I think it's 17 sieverts, but people are probably going to pick
17
me up in the
sieverts.
comments on that.
Oh yeah, so 17 sieverts he gets exposed. So why did the hospital keep him alive? Is it like to test on him to see the results,
Basically,
or
yeah, because that like a human has never been exposed to that amount before. There's like conspiracy theories and that sort of thing that they kept him alive just to see the effects of radiation, like extreme radiation, on a person. Because obviously they
yeah,
can't conduct some sort of experiments or anything. There's no way for them to really find this out. So, like, it's really inhumane, obviously. But I think they
yeah,
did it so they could have like, you know, scientific studies, I suppose, on it. Because at the point, like, if you see the pictures of him, the state he's in, there's no chance he's going to have a normal life, even a life, if he survives
yeah.
it. Like, I believe it was, didn't he be, he asked them to be killed at one point, didn't he, just to let him die?
Yeah, I read
Because,
somewhere where he asked he would use all his strength and he'd muster up one sentence and he'd say something like "Let me die" or something along those lines.
yeah, like, but when you see the picture of him, like, I think they should have just respected that, because, like, a person doesn't deserve to live like that. It's just like in the end, he just looks like a strand of spaghetti, to be honest. Like,
Yeah,
there's
it looks.
nothing of him.
I can't even believe.
It's
Yeah, I can't believe people would look at him and be like, "Oh yeah, we should keep him alive."
Yeah, that's
Like
what I
it's
mean. When
kind
you
of
see
hard.
that picture, you look at him, you think, why on earth would you keep this person alive? Like,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think we've got some facts on like, how he, the thing, like the process of him dying. But it was, I think well, obviously, instantly he had the effects of the radiation. Obviously, where he
yeah,
passed out. I think his I think his white blood cell count was 0 when he was in the hospital. Like, there was
yeah.
nothing. But that's like obviously he's not going to fight off any infection.
And
He had
his chromosomes were destroyed.
yeah. So I'm not too sure if I should even try and explain how
Yeah,
radiation affects cells. I believe it's something to do with it's it's going to sound like an idiot now. Is it electron or something? So I think radiation, like, it affects the atoms by, I think it gets rid of the electrons in our cells, and it breaks bonds in the atoms and that. Obviously, DNA and all that sort of thing, and damages them. And if they can't replicate, then obviously they're going to die. And if they do replicate, then they create more like messed up cells, pretty much. So that's pretty much, I believe, how like the cancer of it would work. But I think I read he was losing, I think, how many was it? 10 liters of fluids a day, which is
wow. Jeez. And they had to medically put some of that back in.
Yeah, apparently, was it? I think it was transfusions. He was having some sort of transfusion every. I think he's having 10 in 12 hours or something, like blood transfusions, which is like insane.
Oh yeah, it says here on website Unbelievable Facts, it said he was given so many blood transfusions, fluids, and medicine that wasn't even available in Japan yet. So they definitely were doing something to keep
him alive.
So invested in keeping him alive when he was asking to die. So I think there might have been something a bit fishy going on there, because that seems a bit.
I think there was definitely something fishy going, because like he's getting skin transplants. His muscles apparently just falling off the bone at that point as well. Like there was nothing of him by the time he died.
You can see in this image as well that I keep mentioning, but I'm also like, please don't go look it up. But I know everybody is. But like this image, you can see that like there have been some bones that have fallen off, and he's kind of deteriorating.
Yeah, he's just deteriorated completely. Like
it is pretty.
I don't see. It's just I'm looking at a disgusting image. Like I wouldn't. I know people are going to go straight to. They're going to go straight to the photo, but. Like,
it is. Yeah, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't recommend it. It is pretty torturous. It seems like.
Did you also read that, on the 59th or 60th day, his heart stopped 3 times in an hour, and they just resuscitated him?
Yeah. I think. It says here he was resuscitated on the 59th day when his heart stopped 3 times within a period of 49 minutes.
That's
Jesus.
Like, there's something going on there, because. You wouldn't let that happen. Like, I don't see how any respectable doctor or anything could let this person continue living.
Yeah.
There must come a point where you think, he's had enough. Like,
it's the only suffering. It's the closest thing to a cure when you get that bad is like death itself. But it seems so suspicious that none of them would that they kept trying to resuscitate him over and over. I would maybe like some scientific unit of Japan or something gave them a grant to keep him alive. Or some kind of, I'd say there was probably some money involved. Some kind of, somebody paid them some good cash to keep him alive, because that seems a bit any good doctor I don't think would do that.
No, it's definitely come from above them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd say so. It can't be
but there's different conspiracy, even to do with like things that happened in like the Korean War with atom bombs going off, and then the ships around it just let like the soldiers, they told them just to turn around, like the people on the Navy boats, while the ash covered them. So they think that's like a conspiracy too, where they've just like they want to see the long-term effects of radiation on humans, and this could be the same sort of thing.
Yeah, especially with the amount he was, like, because this would really, they probably never really saw anything similar if he was alive for so long.
Yeah, definitely not.
He was exposed to the most. So it's, it probably unfortunately did have some benefited some research, but like for what reason though? I wondered, like, what?
Yeah,
in case this happens again.
See the effects of radiation on a human, like extreme radiation exposure, and obviously it severely damaged his brain. His kidneys were like destroyed. So he was pretty much just constantly on life support from, I think it was pretty much from like the 59th, 60th day onwards, he was just constantly on life support. Like there's no way he's living with his body's not going to keep him alive, basically.
Yeah, no way. I don't think any part of him would keep him alive after that. And I'm very surprised, like, so it says here, after being treated for a week, he managed to say, "I can't take it anymore. I'm not a guinea pig."
After 7 days, he said that, and he was kept alive for 83, I believe it was, until he died.
Yeah, that is
bizarre. Multiple organ failure. I think that was in December 1999, so it's not even that long ago. That's like 20 years ago.
Yeah, you think there'd be more outrage. This is my first time. When you sent me the link, it was my first time hearing about it as well.
Yeah,
so
not too many people have heard about this.
Yeah, so it's very surprising. You'd think there'd be like a lot of outrage and like movies made about it and stuff, but
I would have thought there'd be some sort of documentary on it that I would have heard of, but I couldn't find anything. Like, I think the only actual thing on YouTube, at least, that I found was I think like a top 10 or top 15s video. Like, it wasn't like an actual well-known event, to be honest. It might be in Japan, but here, definitely not.
That is bizarre. But I also find it weird that he actually managed to say something. Like, he actually got a sentence out. Because his brain must have had to be alive enough after a week of that much radiation to process his sentence.
How long his brain was active for?
Yeah,
like how long it took his brain to be too damaged to be conscious, or
that was probably one of the last things he said, I imagine, because the article says that was the last thing he said.
I would have thought so. Yeah, I mean, so he must have just been like, he must have been in a coma. He must have been at some point.
Yeah, I imagine. I'd say so. Yeah, I'd be very surprised if he was actually conscious for much longer after that.
Yeah, I wonder if the government had to answer to that, or anyone had to answer to, because when you see the picture, like there must have been some sort of outrage at that, like when the picture was released. And who released the picture? Was it leaked? I don't really know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you would see a lot of sympathetic doctors who maybe would want to get back, and maybe they'd leak the picture or something like that.
Yeah. I think the other guy, Shinohara, I think he was called. He was survived until February and he was actually, I think he was released from the hospital, or I'm sure he was released.
Oh, and died in his home.
I'm not too sure on that. I think let me see. It says that he was taken a wheelchair to visit the hospital gardens in late February 2000. He contracted pneumonia and the damage to his lungs from radiation. He was put on a ventilator, and he couldn't speak. And he died of multiple organ failure.
And he died after.
Yeah, he must have been the other guy who was mixing the uranium. Because obviously two of them doing that, and I think the guy who was about 4 meters back in a chair, he was in the hospital for 6 months, and he was released to recover at home, I believe. But he must have. I mean, he must eventually. I don't know if it is even now, but he must have some effects of that still to this day, because he was very close. Like, I mean,
you're talking about
the guy who survived. He must have
survived, yeah.
Because when you think of the people in Chernobyl, like the liquidators, a lot of them died after, and they weren't even exactly there, exactly on the reactor. Some of them, and they still got cancer in later life. This guy was next to the actual thing happening. So
yeah. And he was he's still alive, did you say?
I'm not too sure, but he was released to recover at home, so I presume so, yeah.
That's pretty interesting, because you were saying, like, what, 350 millimeters is the average, and he got exposed to 3,000?
It was, I think that was the guy, the second guy who died. Was that the main guy had 17,000 millisieverts. The 10,000. Did anyone receive 10? Oh yeah, that guy who the other guy who died received 10 sieverts. And you're right. He received 3 sieverts.
Oh yeah,
and 3 sieverts is the survival rate of that is about 50%.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, and it's like
he was lucky to survive.
Yeah, almost 10 times the amount that a normal human being in their entire lifetime gets, and he got it in one go. Yeah, you think geez, it's very surprising that he survived. But yeah, he must have an interesting story. Like, that's there must have been some long-term effects as well.
There must have been. He must have some sort of effect from that. I would have thought he would get something in later life, because from what I've read of things, and have you heard of Operation Plum Bob and all that sort of thing in America? They a lot of those had leukemia in later life and that sort of thing, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Oh yeah,
but they put it down to obviously human error. This incident.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out what happened to that third guy. No, I guess no. Let's see. But yeah, either way, that's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, this is obviously our first podcast, so
yeah.
I mean, not everything's going to be 100% accurate, but I think like the gist of everything is correct. Like the numbers are correct, like the CVUT numbers and the amount of time they were, and all. Incidents that we talk about.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about what other one do you want to talk about? We've got three we're going to talk about in this.
Yeah. So, I guess well, I'm going to butcher this one as well, but the Joanna accident.
I think it's Goiânia. I believe it's Goiânia.
Goiânia accident.
I hadn't heard of this one either, but this one
I hadn't. Yeah.
Was pretty mental as well. It was basically, in my opinion, it was one of the biggest and most unheard of radioaction contamination accidents ever. Like, definitely, I've never heard of this.
I was surprised by how many people. I mean, we'll get into it soon, but I'm surprised by how many people reacted to it in actually like Brazil.
Yeah, and it surprised me how many. Like, I know it's like there's parts of Brazil that are very poor and uneducated, but it just surprised me that nobody picked up on the fact that, you know, it could potentially be dangerous. If you know what I mean. Yeah. So, well, basically, it took place obviously in Goiânia, which is central Brazil, in September. I think it was 13th of September, 1987. So it was a while back, but not ridiculously long ago. There were, I think it was two malscrapsmen. They entered an abandoned hospital. And they found an old, I think it was an X-ray machine, which they could see something was like glowing inside of it, and obviously which we know was cesium. But I also read that I couldn't figure out why was there an X-ray machine in an abandoned hospital. Like, why was that not removed and dealt with by like the government or some sort of authority? But from what I can tell, the government tried to get rid of the hospital tried to get rid of it, but there was like legal issues with doing so. So it must have been in the process of being removed, or it was just going to be completely left there. So I mean, it was accident waiting to happen, pretty much, from what it seems. So they basically it was like obviously the cesium was encased within the X-ray machine, so they took it out of the hospital and dismantled it over like I think it was the next few days. They dismantled it, and they could see like a glowing blue material, which, in my opinion, if I'd opened up something like that, I mean, they might not have known it was an X-ray machine, but if you found something that was glowing blue, would you be a bit more, you know, cautious?
Well, yeah. Well, now I would definitely after what happened with all this, but
after reading this,
I'd definitely be curious, but I'd probably steer clear of it.
I think I would be obviously interested, but I mean, I can see why these people wouldn't have known, because it's very, very uneducated and poor, a lot of these places. So there's a lot of poverty.
And these guys were collecting scrap metal from this?
So they were scrap dealers.
So they were probably like, this is a good haul. They probably thought
they probably thought this is going to make us loads of money. They probably like hadn't seen anything like it before, thought there's going to make tons of money off of it or something.
Yeah, so I can see why they kept it.
I can see in the way they live and everything, I can see why they would try and take advantage of finding something that's blue and glowing.
Yeah.
So I think, didn't they give it to when they dismantled it? They gave it to some children who smeared it across their bodies because they thought it'd make them glow in the dark.
Oh yeah, I think that happened later when they actually did sell it.
Yeah, and
I think with these guys, they started getting sick after they saw the blue light, and then were forced to go to the hospital. I think one of them even had to amputate a couple of their fingers.
Apparently there was like a big burn from like where the cesium was in his hand. Like, you can actually, there's a picture online, you can see the outline of where the cesium was in his hand.
Oh right, like a permanent mark on his.
Pretty much.
That's bizarre. And for some reason, like after I'm pretty sure they went to the hospital and had to get.
They felt dizzy, didn't they? They felt nauseous and dizzy, and the doctor thought it was food poisoning or something, so they were sent back home.
Yeah, and eventually when they got amputated, I think after even their Oh no, he. Oh yeah, it says that they eventually went. For a second, I thought that they got their fingers amputated and then went back and still tried to sell the script. That would have been that would
I
have been
mean,
confusing.
that's just common sense.
Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Oh yeah, so they sold it then after getting sick.
Yeah, I believe so. And I think they would have intended to sell it regardless, obviously, but
Yeah.
I don't. I think it was one of the guy's hands began to swell. I think it swelled the exact same size and shape of the cesium, and had to have his fingers amputated. Like this is pretty soon after too. Then the other guy started to feel ill and started vomiting, and his left arm started to ulcer, which and I think his forearm had to be amputated, if I'm right.
Yeah,
which is pretty mental.
I'd say it's the same. Yeah, amputation seems to be kind of common with this, but a common reaction to this.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think they still didn't believe this to be like anything radioactive, and obviously you can tell it because I think they even tried to light it, but obviously it's not flammable. I think it was gunpowder. They believed it was gunpowder, which obviously it wasn't, and so they decided to sell it to a scrap dealership, and they named it Carnival Glitter. I mean,
oh yeah, the guys just sold it to the scrapyard.
Yeah, they sold it to someone, and they called it Carnival. They called it Carnival Glitter, and the scrap dealer was obviously like amazed because he'd never seen anything like it before, and he invited his family and friends to come and see the Carnival Glitter. And I think this is the guy who even let his daughter smear it on herself and on her bed sheets and everything, which is, I mean, insane. I know that officially 4 people died from it. I'm sure there may have been more because, I mean, that's a big contamination.
Yeah.
I know there was 249 people had a large amount of it in their body as well, which is, I mean...
And when you read, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure that the first scrap dealer was sold to then sold it to a second scrap dealer.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just seemed to go around the area, like, with nobody... Yeah. I mean, nobody alerting authorities.
Nobody, alerted any authority or anything for a while, it seems. It must have just been once people were starting to get ill and that sort of thing that it must, and getting like fingers amputated and stuff. That's when it must have roused some suspicion.
Yeah, that was it was kind of, it was bizarre. Like, the person who actually did end up eventually telling them was, what's her name? Gabriela Maria Ferreira, I think.
Yeah.
It says here, and she was I think she was the daughter of the second scrap dealer.
Oh, so she must have been concerned with it.
Oh yeah, it was sorry, I think it was his wife or something along those lines. Yeah, but you know, when he was showing all the friends and family, I think that eventually somebody said it, and then she said it, and I think she might have actually she might have been one of the 4 who actually did directly die as well.
Oh really?
From the blue liquid. Yeah, I think I read somewhere that she actually did. She eventually died. Yeah, it says here in the fatalities, that she was one of the people who died.
Oh,
the person, the daughter who smeared all around her face, thinking it was thinking to help her glow in the dark, she passed, and then there was 2 others, who were
apparently as a result of it, 112,000 people had to be examined. That's insane. And the government demolished several square contaminated city blocks. I mean, that's that's mental.
It was probably right on the brink as well of being a proper outbreak as well. If it had kept going that way, I mean, it would have been...
If it just kept getting passed around, who knows how much could have been contaminated.
Yeah, because even that much passed around, the effects were devastating. Like, imagine it was passed around 10 times that much. Or imagine the guy who showed it to all his friends and family was like a really popular guy, and he brought over like 200 people.
Yeah, a massive party.
Yeah, a massive party around it, because that's what they seem to be doing. They seem to be throwing it around the air,
it seems to like a trophy, almost.
Yeah, it seemed. I don't know. I guess it is like a blue radiating light, but it seems. I don't know. It attracted so many people to it, like in its short little lifespan after it got stolen.
Yeah, and I think it's crazy. This all started because of 2 people opening up an X-ray machine in an abandoned hospital. Like, you wouldn't think that 112,000 people would have to be examined, and a whole, like, pretty much city block would have to be destroyed pretty much because of it.
And like, we don't know about it, but I'm sure that in Brazil or in central Brazil, that was probably a big story.
I would have thought so. I mean, that must have been a big story.
because I think when the 100,000 people went to, they found out about it through the news and then went to get investigated
Yeah, get
because
themselves
of that.
checked.
And yeah, that so it must have been a huge panic, and it all started from these two guys. And well, it all started because they couldn't get a machine out of a hospital for some
Yeah,
strange reason. Maybe the other place that because they were moving hospitals, so maybe the other place didn't have a license to have this machine or whatever. But either way,
yeah.
that I mean, the
It shouldn't have been
consequences
left
were
unattended. Definitely not shouldn't have been.
yeah. Either way, I think they had like one security guard or something, and then that security guard like, or maybe two security guards, but they took advantage of how relaxed it was, anyways,
Yeah,
and
managed to get
used it.
inside. Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of irrelevant how many security guards there were because they got in pretty easily, and I mean, they had to get in and then
get out with the glowing blue material. I'm
yeah, they had
guessing
to get
not.
out with that machine. Yeah, probably not that easy. They kind of had to like probably be there for a while.
It must have
But
been.
yeah, it's bizarre. Yeah, they should have taken it and then just put it somewhere else, even if they couldn't put it in the new hospital. It seems so weird to leave it there. Um,
Definitely, yeah.
and you think about like urban exploring so big now. You think like something like this could happen
It
if
definitely could happen
somebody
if you went
just
to somewhere that's more of a poor country or something. I'm certain you could probably still find things like this in those countries.
yeah, like, and you would kind of be a little, especially if you were in, maybe not in a
100%.
hospital, but if you were in someplace and you saw a glowing blue light, I think yeah, you'd be pretty
You'd
curious
be
about it. So
pretty intrigued, yeah. I
yeah, so
mean, like it could just be younger people that would be intrigued by something like that, or people that haven't been well educated or something. Just
hmm.
I can imagine them being intrigued by it, and something I could see something like that happening again in probably the next 10 years, to be honest, because it doesn't seem like something that'd be that uncommon. Even where I live, like 5 minutes away, is an abandoned hospital. Like,
Yeah,
if I'm pretty sure in other countries there must be tons.
yeah. It is pretty alarming to think about how easy that happened.
So the third one's the Chernobyl one, wasn't it?
Yeah, Chernobyl
Okay,
Suicide Squad.
so basically there were. I want to get it all right for this one because there's a lot of facts for this one. In the, I think it's early morning, April 26th in 1986, there was two explosions, and they basically took out the fourth reactor in Chernobyl. I think it instantly killed 2 workers and 29 more in the next 4 months or so, which is like the official, I think, records of it. But obviously, there've been a lot more people die over time, and it's still growing because of the fact that because a lot of them died of cancer and that sort of thing. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure the numbers are higher than that. I'm sure they're keeping it on the down low how many people actually died because of it.
yeah, it
And
would be. I mean,
yeah, I think it was basically, I believe after the explosion happened, there was it was like, I think it was essentially lava, like molten radioactive metal from the explosion, and it was traveling towards. In power plants, they've got cooling pools. I think all of them have it. It's like around the reactor. It's like a big pool of. It's like a swimming pool underneath.
yeah,
Like, you know what I mean, it's normally got like a blue light, which I think is to do with the radiation. But
mm,
I think basically that essentially, like, that it was pretty much just a big ball of hot lava that's radioactive going towards the cooling pool. And obviously, if that had happened, there would have been a big steam explosion, which would have taken out the rest of the reactors in Chernobyl and caused an even bigger explosion that would have affected most of Europe and a lot. I think it was probably a lot of the world as well, because I know even today there's been effects from the Chernobyl disaster. And I know it's not a lot, but I think the effects of it can be felt around Europe pretty much. So that was just with that reactor, the fourth one. So if the other ones had gone as well, like that would have been I think a worldwide disaster pretty much.
yeah,
So I think so basically I think these people had to go in and they had to drain it, didn't they? I
yeah,
believe.
or release a valve. I think to
Yeah.
drain something along those lines, and it was three men, I think, three workers,
Yeah.
and
Did they nominate themselves to it? Did they volunteer?
I think so. Yeah, I think they might have.
It's massively brave, isn't it? Like they must have known. It's practically a death sentence, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. So they had to drain the pool under that reactor, and yeah, apparently, it says here the basement had flooded as well, where they were actually going, and all the valves were underwater, and they put on swimsuits and swam down.
Yeah, from what I've read, I'm not 100% on this, but I think there may have been two different stories. One of them is more exaggerated, and one of them that was less exaggerated. But I don't know which one's true, and if it's just like no internet talk or something. But I know the gist of the story was that they put on swimsuits and they had to go down and drain it, and obviously it was radioactive water and obviously everything was just pretty messed up at that point. So it was a suicide mission almost, essentially. They knew the chances. I think, didn't they say that that the government or something said that if they did it, their families would be, looked after if they did die because of it and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think that one of the stories is that it was filled up with water and they had to go down, and apparently a lamp blew out, so there's feeling around for like where the valve could be. Obviously, knowing imminently the steam explosion could happen, pretty much. And the other story is that it was knee high, and they had to obviously search around for it. But regardless, I mean, it's
I think in one of the there's like multiple accounts, and one of them they died, and then another I think they survived.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I believe they may have survived, but I don't know because there's been contradicting, statements about that from what I can see. I mean, I'll quickly look up now, but.
So this is a quote from one of the guys who thinks that they just went down and didn't die, and this is at the end. He said they still went into a pitch black, badly damaged basement beneath a molten reacting core that was slowly burning its way down to them. So I mean, regardless of which one it is, I mean, the bravery is there. I mean, it was kind of an insane thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. It's a crazy thing to do, because when you think about the levels of radiation around that area, even today, there's a lot of parts you still can't go to, or if you do, you can't be there for long. I think these people there as it happened. I mean,
having to deal with that. And also I read half of Europe would have been wiped out, but also half of Europe, you couldn't have entered half of the entire continent for 500,000 years or something like that.
Really? So that's crazy.
It's just a massive chunk of Europe would have been completely uninhabitable. Yeah, and they couldn't even touch it for 500,000 years.
That would be if the lava pretty much went into the cooling pool.
Yeah, if the valve was released and the steam exploded, it would have been 500,000 years of not being able to. So, I mean, the effects on Earth would have been insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
would have made some improvements in certain parts of London, but
yeah, it would have been basically thousands and thousands of miles of post-apocalyptic land. It would have been bizarre. It would have been Fallout or something.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. It would have been mental.
Insane. Half a continent. Yeah,
that's literally half. Even today, I think, when you think about what actually happened. I think obviously the liquidators in general did a brilliant job, because there's just a zone that you can't go, isn't there now? There's a zone that you have to stay outside of. But to think that could have been most of Europe, they did a great job. The people that were on the scene at the time.
Yeah, that could have been it could have been insane. That could have been one of the worst. Well, probably it was the worst nuclear disaster in history, but it could have been 10, 20 times worse.
Yeah. Have you heard of the elephant's foot before?
Yeah, that's in Chernobyl, isn't it?
Yeah, that's I think it's where the reactor is, pretty much. And I was just wondering whether that was linked, to the same lava ball, pretty much, that was going towards the pool.
Maybe,
pool.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm not sure on that. But I think if you stand in front of that for 300, I think it's 300 seconds. Is a death sentence practically.
Yeah, I've heard that people photographers who've taken pictures of it have died.
It's
a picture of it.
Apparently, even two of the liquidators that were just clearing the roof and stuff for the sarcophagus to be put on the top over the top of it, so the radiation wasn't emitted into the atmosphere. Even the people that did that, apparently their eye color changed, some of them, which is insane.
I can imagine as well. It's kind of bizarre to think that like that could have been everywhere.
Yeah, literally.
You know, if it wasn't for three guys just being like, all right, well, yeah, we should probably fix this. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre.
Mental. I mean,
but yeah, that's
that's pretty much the three things, isn't it, that we were intending to cover?
Yeah.
In the podcast. I mean, obviously it's our first one, so like give us a bit of leniency because we're
a bit of leeway,
yeah.
We have ways to go. That was good though. A lot of I didn't know any of I hadn't heard of any of that before you sent me the link. So yeah, the topics were really interesting to cover. Yeah,
I mean, there's so many to cover as well. There's different ones. I mean, I'd love to do more of these. Like, if people actually want to see more of this sort of thing, because obviously when you make a video on this sort of thing, it's very scripted and you've got to stick to something. But when I do it with like you, I can just talk about it and then expand on different points and go on different tangents and stuff. So it makes it much more interesting. I think it kind of flows a bit more. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it's also very. I'm also, it's kind of you're doing it blind as well because you're actually learning a lot of the stuff as you're speaking about it. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, obviously we research everything, but you can't remember all these facts and stuff. Like we've got notes and links and stuff in front of us, so it is challenging, but I think it's an enjoyable thing to do. But I don't think we did too bad, to be honest with you. Like the amount of facts we had to get in there, I don't think we, butchered too much except for names.
Yeah, a couple of hiccups. I think when we got to the beginning was tough with the Japanese names, but I think we got through it.
We shouldn't have started with that, should we?
It was good. Yeah, maybe not thinking about it. Although that was like the darkest one, so it's probably good to get it out of the way.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, at least we finished on a high note. I know in the with the liquidator, the 3 liquidators that did go into the coolant pool, I know they've got a statue now, haven't they? And I believe one of them still works in the industry, apparently. So
it's still what?
It works in the industry. So
that's pretty interesting. I never knew that.
That's from what I've heard. But I mean, there's some reports that they died. There's some that they're still alive. So I mean, I don't know. But I mean, it's interesting nonetheless. And if we do more of these, we're going to get better. And there's tons more radiation topics to cover. So it'd be cool to do.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
That's pretty much the end of this one then. So if you enjoyed it, let us know and make sure you go and subscribe to the Burks channel. And if you want to see more of these, just tell us, and I'm sure we would be happy to do more.
Yeah, of course. That was a lot of fun, man. Thanks for having me.
That's all right. All right. Speak to you all soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.